Hello everyone, so I'm in the Archaeological Museum in Bodh Gaya, and the most important thing in here is this railing. So there was a stone railing, a sort of railing obviously with carved reliefs around the original temple that they put on the spot where the Buddha supposedly achieved enlightenment. So yeah, the original temple supposedly built in the time of Ashoka, so 3rd century BC. So the sign here says that the sandstone railings are from the time of Ashoka, and then the granite railings are from the 6th or 7th centuries AD. So that's probably the Gupta period. So I'll just go around and try and show you some of these railings. And here are some gray granite ones. Here are more gray granite ones on the right. And here on the right, there's another gray granite pillar. And on the left, you can see that the pillar has this rosy or pinkish hue, and those again are the red sandstone pillars and railings. Now, I said earlier in the video that in the museum it suggested that the railings were built in the time of Ashoka. I'm now seeing online, including on Wikipedia, that these railings may actually have been built in the Shunga period. The Shunga dynasty was a dynasty that ruled the state of Magadha from the 2nd to the 1st centuries BC. So if this theory is right, these railings were probably built in the 2nd century BC, so about a century after the reign of Ashoka. And we do know of some railings which are quite similar, which were built at a similar time in the 2nd century BC. And here are two examples from Stupa 1 and Stupa 2 at Sanchi. Now, this is a relief sculpture that I actually had in a previous video to illustrate this Buddhist tradition of temples with sacred trees surrounded by railings. That was in the video about the Lumbini pillar inscription, but this is actually a relief on one of the pillars that make up the railings around the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya. So in other words, this is in the Bodh Gaya Archaeological Museum. What you have is on one of the railings, on one of the pillars that makes up the railings in Bodh Gaya, there's actually a depiction of those railings themselves and the Bodhi tree, which was at the center of them. And they also have these railings, other relief sculptures. And what do they show? Well, they show really a hodgepodge of different things: animals, elephants, centaurs, horses, etc. So animals and mythological figures. And this actually makes me think back to when I did the video about the lion capital of Ashoka at Sarnath. I was talking about the figures on the abacus, so part of that capital, and I was talking about the various theories about why these animals were there. Maybe they were associated with the life of the Buddha, for example. And this is actually making me think that perhaps we can take these examples of animals too seriously on these monuments. And maybe what we have in a lot of these cases are just sort of the craftsmen taking an opportunity to have a bit of fun. You know, they're probably given a broad brief to decorate these monuments, and they kind of mixed in some animals that they liked and some mythological characters that caught their fancy. And it makes me think of a similar phenomenon on Christian churches. So two that I happen to know well, two of the great churches of the West, Sherborne Abbey and the cathedral in Modena. So Sherborne Abbey has a lot of bosses on its roof, and here is an example of one of them, which is a mermaid, depicts a mermaid. And here on the right, there is from Modena Cathedral this very strange figure with one human foot and one hoof. It has a kind of bird's head, and he or she is eating a fish. And there's a figure in the background there, so it's been suggested that this is a nightmare. But whatever's going on, I think it would be a stretch to say this is all part of a coherent sort of sculptural program. Really what's going on, I think, is just that some cheeky craftsmen are taking a bit of liberties with the monument, and they're able to just put something there which they think is interesting and fun. And on these railings, there are also stories, so they depict short stories, as with some Christian churches. But here, of course, they're Buddhist in theme. And what we have often are these Jataka tales. So Jataka tales are tales about the lives of the Buddha, the previous lives of the Buddha before he was reincarnated as Siddhartha Gautama in the life that became the most famous life of the Buddha. So those are the railings, probably from the 2nd century BC, possibly from the reign of Ashoka in the 3rd century BC. And they have a lot of interesting and beautiful sculptures on them. And they're of a sort which we're familiar with from some other railings in the vicinity, for example, at Sanchi.